Thanks for being with us. I have some questions for you, which I like to have your fair answer. In your experience on the beer, what is the most interesting ingredient that you use in your beer?
Boy, we're a hop-focused brewery, so I would say some of the hops probably are the most interesting, but we also use a wide variety of grains, traditional barley malt, but also wheat and oats and rye.
And in which one of these ingredients you see more future or more challenging situations in the future, in the malt section or in the hop section?
I think both of them have their charm in beer. There are malt sort of heavy beers or very malt focused beers that you can do a lot with the raw materials, but there's also a whole wide range of herbs and spices and other things that you can get from different types of hops.
Spices?
Well, spicy aromatics, not necessarily added spices, but that's also something that can be experimented with as well.
So the experiments in your house goes through the raw materials and also through the yeast and the microbiological part of the beer?
Yeah, we've got a couple of yeast specialists that are doing a lot now with different strains of yeast, as well as we're harvesting wild yeast from the environment. We have a cool ship we just put together, and we'll get yeast from the air, from the orchards, and experiment with that as well.
Are you finding a big surprise on these experiments?
Some of them are very good, yeah, surprisingly good with sort of natural yeast that you find out in the environment.
How do you see the Spanish beer atmosphere?
I've only been here a few times. I love Spain. The times I've visited, I've really enjoyed myself, and I see the beer movement really starting to accelerate here. A lot of exciting things happening.
Do you feel that the culture of the beer, the culture of transforming cereals on beer is getting a good mood in Spain now?
I think it's a global thing, so I think it's happening around the world that people are appreciating, how beer is made, the ingredients that go in beer, the purity of beer. I think it's really coming back to people who want to know what's in the foods they eat and in the beers and other things they drink.
We could say that part of our job as a brewmaster is to teach the rest of the world how beer is made or how our beer was made during years.
Yes, I think that now there's so much knowledge around beer and brewing that wasn't there just a few years ago. There's so much information and the internet and ways people have learned, but there seems to be still a growing excitement about beer and brewing. What
about the IPA, these famous three letters that mean India Pale Ale, a blooming style of beer? How did you discover that beer?
I've always liked hops. I like the aroma of hops. I like the flavor of hops, and IPA is a style of beer that features a lot of hops. But there are other styles both around the world as well as in many places that are hop focused and hop forward. And I think people's appreciation and love of hops is growing. And once people taste hops, they want more and more. It seems like.
Do you think that people understand what mean IPA when they receive this name on the heads?
I don't know that they know the history of IPA, but I think they understand it means a beer that's got a stronger hop character.
When was your first IPA brewed by you?
I brewed it as a home brewer back in 1970s using what hops were available back then, which isn't nearly as many varieties as we have today.
And your Torpedo beer is similar to that one?
Oh, no, I think the Torpedo uses a lot of some of the newer varieties of hops that weren't available back when I brewed. Things were very limited back when I first started making beer at home.
How important is your direction for the hop growers in order to move the new varieties?
I think the craft movement has helped the hop industry. For many years, hops were just used for bitterness and not much other flavor or character. And with small brewers embracing using hops in different ways, dry hopping, using more hops, using different varieties of hops, it's really expanded the breeding of hops around the world.
What's going to be the new IPA style that will get the world?
I think people like balance still, so I think the beers are starting to be more malt and hop balanced rather than just bitter. The style that's become popular now in the United States is what is referred to as New England. So sort of cloudy, hazy, a lot of hop flavor, but not a lot of hop bitterness.
Okay, and any other idea about sour beers?
Sour beers have their niche, but not everybody appreciates it. But there are certain kinds of yeast and bacteria that do create more acidity, primarily bacterias. And there's a population that likes those kind of tart and more assertive flavors.
Do you think that to put a beer in a barrel is a good idea?
To put a beer
in a wood barrel for years?
So barrel aging of beer has been done for many, many years, but today a lot of brewers, us included, are aging the beer in barrels that previously were used for wine or spirits or sake or some other fermented beverage that imparted its flavor into the wood. And now you're extracting the wood and what was previously in there, so you can blend those flavors.
So we have a new universe there.
Yes, a lot of opportunities to experiment.
Any possibility of the non-alcoholic beer for your market?
Yes, we were experimenting right now. We've been working on a non-alcoholic beer for some time. We're very low alcohol, so below 0.5% alcohol. So it's a segment that's growing around the world. I know it's very popular in many countries. United States, not so much, but I think it's coming.
You think that it will grow?
A flavorful non-alcoholic beer, yes.
A style of beer that you're still pending on your book to develop?
We experiment every week. We have a meeting with our brewers and discuss what we should try to experiment with next. So I like the creating of new beer process, and so that's ongoing and hopefully will continue forever.
Has any idea on the history of any style of beer that should be refreshed or?
I think what the craft movement has done really is taken styles that maybe had disappeared in some cases, or styles that had been evolved over the years, and try to bring them either back to their roots or off in a new direction. So I think you can create new types of old styles of beers and create a lot of interest.
I would like to know that, I would like to mention or to name that, to refresh all styles of beer that were forgotten just because technical stuff was not properly done, technical limitations, hop availability, raw materials. But in these historical books, there is a lot of good ideas to be renovated and inspired.
And also people's tastes have changed over the years, and brands that maybe weren't currently in favor have disappeared. And now, finding those old styles and bringing them back it's a lot of fun, and so you can be a historian as well as somebody who can reinterpret some of those brands.
And do you think that we go to a client, a consumer of beer, that will stay loyal to the brand, or the fact that there is more culture on the beer atmosphere will make less loyal consumers?
I think the consumer's tastes are evolving and changing, and the brewer has to stay there with the consumer, either leading a little bit out ahead or at least making sure that you can stay relevant with where consumers' tastes are going, because they are changing.
They change because they get on older, they change because they have more experience?
I think both. If you look at what's happened in the food culture, at least in America, we had a period of time where food was very boring and bland, and not a lot of seasoning and flavors, and very limited availability. And now we've got a wide range of artists and bakers and chefs that are doing great things.
This is what I was mentioning before of my visit to the States. When I was visiting, say, like 30 years ago, I remember quite a boring food market. Yeah. Now it's just the opposite. It's blooming of Oriental, European, American taste food, spices all around, fresh food. So I think we are in the right track, and beer should follow. I don't know whether it should follow or should lead the tendency. What do you think?
I think it should lead, but it's always hard, I think, to figure out where the tastes are going. But
what do you expect of our collaboration in the next years, or hopefully many years?
As far as us collaborating with other brewers, We're still reaching out to some brewers around the globe who we respect and who are doing interesting things and trying to figure out how we can do interesting things together.
There is a lot of things that we can, I think, discover together. I think so.